favorite subjects, and the reason why is that I have 6 children and they cost a lot of money, and I'm sure you're already aware of that, especially if you have teenagers in the house. So I happen to have 5 teenagers and a 7-year-old. So you can hire your kids to work for you, and you can pay them whatever you would pay someone else to work for you. So what that looks like is that, you know, kids are expensive. So they have games, they have weddings, they have college, they have all these things that they want you to spend money on. And in essence, you can actually hire them to work for you, and then they can pay for the things that they want. 1, that makes them more responsible. 2, it allows you massive tax deductions. And 3, they don't have to pay taxes on it. If they're under the age of 18, there's actually no taxes at all, meaning that you can hire your kids, you can pay them $12,000 a year, which is the standard deduction for every American. So they can receive $12,000. They don't pay any taxes on it. There's no federal, no state, or no FICA taxes that your child would have to pay if they're 18 and under. Now, if they are over 18, you can still pay them. And we'll talk about that in just a second, there are some taxes that you would have to pay. Now, the other aspect is that that same $12,000, it becomes a business expense for you as a business owner. But you don't have to pay any matching FICA taxes, nor do you have to pay unemployment taxes if they're under the age of 18. Now, you may be asking yourself, how old do our children have to be in order to hire them to work for us? Well, it's been held up in court and precedented at age 7. Now, you can hire your children at any age, but you need to make sure that they can actually do the job that you've hired them for, and I would keep some sort of track of what you're having them do. Now, things that they can do for you, they could clean the house. If you have a home-based business, they could go to your office and help you work if you have a brick and mortar location. Now, you know, I've had children go with me to events and they're considered personal assistants. So I have them come along with me and help me sell books. I have them help, you know, set up our tables, and they could go with you to your events and help you set those up. They could talk to people for you. They could help you with social media. I think children are better at social media than we are anyway at the end of the day. I've actually had my 6-year-old invite people onto my social media page, and I can pay her to do that. Now, if you have children that are under the age of 7, you could hire them to do things like modeling. So guys, anything you would pay someone else to do, you can pay your children to do that. I just want you to understand that. So if you would pay someone to model your product or your service, whatever you're doing, then you could pay your children to do that exact same thing. So here's what happens. You need to pay them a reasonable wage. You need to keep some sort of timesheet. And it doesn't have to be fancy, just something on a piece of paper if you want, or even keeping track of it on a Google Calendar would work. The first $12,000 a year in income is free, so there's no taxes on that. There's no Social Security, just like I stated, so they don't have to pay Social Security and Medicare, and neither do you as their employer, when typically if you hire someone else to work for you, you're going to have to pay that. Any child who's under the age of 18, there's no taxes, no unemployment, no FICA. If they're over the age of 18, you would have to withhold FICA taxes on them, and then you would also, as the employer, match those FICA taxes. But as they continue to get older, obviously they have things like college, and you could implement an employee benefit for a college program, so you can actually help pay towards their college up to $5,250 a year, and that be a tax deduction for you, and the child would not have to pay taxes on it. So there's many other reasons why you would hire your children. The other aspect of hiring your children, just so you're aware, are things like travel. So if you are going out of town to an event, or you want to take your children with you to help you at your business, then you can take them with you, and their travel and their meals and their lodging, all of that would be tax deductible as well for your business, and you would be able to write that off. Now, here's an example so I can help you understand. You pay your child $12,000 a year. They deduct the 12. and then you deduct the 12 as well. So because they have a standard deduction, they're getting to deduct that $12,000, putting them at a zero taxable income. You have a $12,000 business expense, you get to deduct that off your tax return, and you report that $12,000 as a tax deduction. That typically saves, depending on your tax bracket, between $3,500 and $5,500 a year per child if you're paying them that $12,000. So it's a huge deal for you guys. Now, how do we set your salary for your kids? The goal is that you obviously want to give them a salary not higher than someone else that you would pay. So if you had, let's say, a housekeeper and you paid her $100 a week to clean your home, you wouldn't pay your child $250 a week to clean your home. If you had someone who maybe is an admin person or a personal assistant type person and you would pay them $15 an hour to do their job, you wouldn't pay your child $20 an hour. But what you can do is pay them the equivalent. You can pay them the same amount or a little bit less. And as long as you're keeping track of the documentation, meaning that you are writing out a timesheet, it could be every single week, it could be every month, keeping track of that and the documentation around that wage sheet is perfect. And then also any of the services that they're rendering. So you can see this timesheet here, and it just shows exactly what the child is doing and how many hours that they spent. Something that simple would be fine to keep inside your records. Now, one of the things I want you to understand is that you have to process payroll tax returns every quarter for your children, regardless if they have any taxes deducted. So it is a requirement for you to process a payroll check necessarily. So money has to move from your account into their account. Now that account could have your name on it as well, and it's fine. Whatever you do with the money or whatever they do with the money after it goes into that account is irrelevant, but you do have to show that the money is moving from your account, a business account preferably, into their account. And again, that account could have your name on it as well. Now, from there, you also have to process what's called payroll tax returns every quarter. And what those look like, although there's no taxes being withheld if they're under the age of 18, you have to send in something called a 941. That is a federal tax return that has to be filed every quarter. You have to send in a 940, which is a yearly federal unemployment tax paperwork that has to be filed, and then there's a quarterly unemployment and a state withholding. Now, I don't want you to get concerned and freak out and say this is too much paperwork. This is something we can actually help you with, and it's very minimal. We typically charge $50 a month to do all of this paperwork for you so that you don't have to worry, and we'll take care of it. We also have to issue a W-2 for your child by January 31st of every single year. So I just want you to understand that you can't just say that you paid your children. You have to actually have the proper documentation. You have to have a timesheet. We have to file quarterly payroll tax returns, even though they are zero and you don't have to pay any taxes. We just have to make sure that all that documentation is put into place. So I hope this helps you understand more about hiring your kids and how you can take advantage of it. Just please make sure that you are doing the proper documentation to assure that you are being able to keep the tax deductions that you're taking on hiring your kids. And guys, I want you to understand, you know, we have 6 children. Just to give you an example, $12,000 a year, that is $72,000 in a tax deduction that we're entitled to take. And that saves us around $28,000 a year in taxes. So it's just a huge, huge deal for you to take advantage of what is called income shifting. So this is truly a part of the tax code called income shifting, and you can shift your income off to your children who are at a much lower tax rate so that you can keep more of your hard-earned money and have a more relaxing and less taxing life.